Hello, everyone. Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Thank you for being here today, and thank you for representing your family, your mom and dad. As we know, your dad had brain surgery about a month and a half. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And we are grateful here that your family, especially your dad, is willing to share his testimony. And as you know, many people usually are not willing to share their testimony. And in order for us to share it on the website or YouTube, Facebook, we have to have permission, and people have to be willing to share that. So we thank your family for doing that for God, because God played a tremendous role in this whole time when your dad was going through brain surgery, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for representing the family and sharing their his testimony, and to give glory to God.
Yes.
Okay? Now, Catherine, we would like us to tell us point by point what happened during this time, how God was present in all this experience that your family had during this time that would have been so traumatic for some, so stressful for some.
Right.
How did it go for you and your mom?
So for Mom and I, it ended up being one of the most joyful times of our life, which doesn't make sense at any level, but it was. And it was all because of everything that God did. He was there every single step of the way, showing us that He was there before. He brought answers years before we needed them during this time, weeks, months, moments, and also within 24 hours after asking. It was a Sunday morning in mid-August. I got a phone call from my mom saying that they'd been in the emergency room all weekend. Dad had fallen a couple times. She took him to ER just to be checked out, make sure he was okay, because the second fall he hit his head really hard in the kitchen. They ended up being the last person seen in ER, so it was like into the midnight and the wee hours of the morning. They did a CAT scan, discovered a brain tumor, needed to get an MRI. So Sunday morning, I get this phone call. Your dad fell over the weekend. He has a brain tumor, and they're going to be operating pretty quickly. So, and she said I won't know more until tonight. So I had just left Pastor Eli's house after church. So immediately we turned around, went back, got prayer, and waited to get the phone call. They finally got the MRI done, sent it to two bigger hospitals in Oregon, one in Eugene, one in Portland. The hospital in Portland just happened to have, which we know wasn't just happened, but one of the top brain surgeons was there on rotation that week. And so he said, send him here. So Sunday night, they transported him to Portland. The doctor that surgeon called my mom Sunday night to say, we'll operate within the next 2 to 3 days. So I called Pastor Eli. He said, yes, go. So Monday morning, I packed up the car and drove to Oregon and got to my mom's house that night. The doctor called, said they would operate Wednesday morning. So Wednesday morning, we got up and drove to Portland and got there in time for my mom to see him in pre-op. And they would only allow one visitor per patient per day. So she video chatted me in, so I got to see him before surgery. They let us know the surgery would take anywhere from 7 to 8 hours. And they had a nurse on standby who would call us periodically throughout the whole procedure. Let us know when it started, when it ended, and frequent updates throughout the day. So they finally started surgery about 1:15 in the afternoon, finished at 9:15 that evening, and they said, so the brain tumor they found, the reason why they were operating so quickly is that one, it was the size of a baseball. It was located in the front of his brain, across his forehead. It started on the left-hand side, wrapped significantly around the optical nerve, and then went all the way over onto the right side of his brain. I've since learned that that area of the brain, for those of you who may not have known like I didn't, it is responsible for all of our cognitive skills. So hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, swallowing, walking, your personality, your memory, like all of that is affected by that part of your brain. So, one, the doctor said because of how well it's wrapped around some of the nerves, we might not be able to get it all. And we do not know how this will affect all of these skills when he comes out. He may or may not be able to do any of those things, or all of those things, or one of those things. So we called Pastor Eli for prayer and believed that God was going to guide the surgeons, that everything would come out and there would be no adverse side effects at all. So came out of the surgery, like I said, about 9:15 that night. He was moved to the recovery room. My mom was able to go see him the next day, and they still had the breathing tube in the morning. And but like I said, the first praise report was that the doctors were able to get every bit of it out, and they were they were glad about that. We were glad about that. And my dad woke up long enough. He knew who my mom was, but because of the breathing tube, could not talk to her. The next day, day 2, Mom said, "You go see him." And so I went in, and I was actually pleasantly surprised to see he was actually already sitting up in a chair, awake, smiling. And when he saw me, he smiled. He knew who I was. And he was like, "Oh, my daughter." And so later I was like, "What's my name, Dad?" Because I wanted to make sure he knew who I was. Because I have a mask on. I haven't seen him in over a year, physically face to face. And he immediately, even through the mask, was like, "No, you're Catherine. You're my daughter. And I love you." And so I knew his brain was fine. And later that afternoon, while visiting, a physical therapist came. They got him up to walk, asked me if I would help by being behind him with a wheelchair in case he needed to sit down or fell. He walked a good 20 feet out of the room into the hallway, turned around and came back. And at first, he walked, kind of slow and hunched over, like he was having trouble getting the left leg to move. And then out in the hall, the therapist encouraged him, stand up straight, or get your head up. And immediately he snapped to, almost like a soldier to attention. And I thought, that was a pretty abrupt, movement for somebody who, if they were truly having a hard time. But then I didn't really think anything of it. And then later when I got back to the room, I was telling my mom about it, and she said, "Oh," she goes, "he played a trick on you. That's what he used to do to me as a game we'd play. He would get out of bed in the morning and be hunched over and moan he was ancient. And then she would tell him, 'Stand up straight, walk tall.' And then he'd stand up and do a funny little walk and be fine." And so he had played a trick on us, and we didn't even know it because, physical therapist and I weren't in on the joke. So
his memory was there.
His memory was there. Day 2 after surgery, he knew enough to play a joke on us, even though we didn't understand what the joke was at the time. So yeah, day 4, he was eating semi-solid food. He was already reasoning with the doctors and, presenting his case for, why the catheter needed to come out and why they needed to get him up and go to the bathroom. And if a patient was going through this, what would you recommend that they do or say, or how should they ask for pain medication? So I'm like, He's doing just fine. All his cognitive skills were there. He could see, hear, smell, taste, touch. He had no problem once they brought him, solid food, eating and swallowing.
And you said that he was ordering everything in the menu, something like that?
That was like the 2 days before. Yeah, before.
Oh, yeah.
But even then, he would order, like, he found out he could have ice cream, so he would order a milkshake, a strawberry milkshake with every meal, a chocolate cup of ice cream with every meal, in addition to whatever else he was ordering off the menu.
So he was there.
He was there. We did realize after a while that his short-term memory was affected, meeting all these doctors and nurses. And so suddenly several nurses became a part of our family. He thought they were granddaughters or cousins or related to us some way, somehow. And, but even in that, after about a week, he actually called my mom one day, and it was like, okay, so the fact that he remembered her phone number, was able to actually call her, and then tell her, I think I have some of the family members a little mixed up with some of the nurses, so you're going to have to help me figure it out. So he knew enough to know he was confused. So even then.
So it's kind of normal in a way. Because sometimes even when you're like sick for a while, you have a little confusion going on. Your mind is not stable.
Right.
Because you've been, I don't know, bedridden for a while kind of thing. So it's almost normal to have that kind of reaction.
Yes, yeah. In fact, I've often heard that any kind of surgery where you're under anesthesia for many, many hours like that most people's short-term memory is affected for a while.
Yeah,
so,
I can imagine,
yeah. So, and then on top of that, digging around in your brain for, 8 hours. But yeah, I mean, nothing that, actually there's even a prayer that moms continued to pray for him that Pastor Eli gave us, that he's given to another one of the women in the group to pray over her mom with Alzheimer's. And in both of our parents, she had it, and it's gone. And we're seeing both of their short-term memory come back quickly because of this prayer. Yes.
She's speaking clearly, yes. Yeah, and I had the opportunity to see her.
Yes.
She's speaking quite clearly.
Yeah.
It was quite something to see her do
miraculous, because my understanding is she had stopped talking for over a year, and now she's speaking in complete full sentences.
So you've been a member of the Eliaren's Ministries, and the other lady being a member of the Eliaren's Ministries, all within a short period of time, we experienced miracles within the family of the ministry.
Yes.
But it's not the only miracle happening. Miracles happen in different ways, different things. It'll be health, finances, etc.
Yeah. Well, even going through this, we've even saw God do miracles for my dad financially.
Yes. Tell us about it.
So like I said, one, having the brain surgeon in Portland be one of the top doctors and be there that week when this happened, on rotation already. So that was God ordained. And then when it came time to move him from the hospital where he had surgery to an intensive therapy, in-home therapy, they call it. And after going through several locations, the one that they really wanted to send him to was one in Eugene, because the doctor who was working there happens to be very good with working with physical therapy for patients who have had brain surgery. The location was in my parents' insurance plan, but he was not. The doctor was not. He had just applied. And normally that process can take months. And if he's not in the plan, then we would have had to pay out of pocket $1,200 a day for this doctor to work with my dad. Within less than 24 hours, he was accepted into his medical plan and able to work for him, fully covered.
And again, you called Pastor Eli for
Called Pastor Eli for prayer, and the favor happened pretty much like as he was arriving. even the transportation was supposed to be covered by insurance. Then we found out it wouldn't because he was so well. They didn't need to transport him in an ambulance. He didn't need a nurse on board. So then that was going to now be an out-of-pocket expense, which Mom and Dad, I figured it up because of $3 a mile from Portland to Eugene, plus a flat fee of $100. It's going to be about $470. And they didn't have it at the time. I didn't have it at the time. So I called Pastor Eli for prayer. We prayed. We went home after about a week and a half of being in Portland with my dad. And I helped my mom empty out a few storage units. And so she had going through boxes. And mind you, these are boxes of my dad's desk that have been packed up like 4 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, they've been in storage. So as Mom's going through them, she starts finding money. 20 here, 100 there, 40 there, inside of like an eyeglass case, like weird places. So we're like, don't throw anything away, go through everything. When it's all said and done, she found a little over $500, more than covered his transportation from Portland to Eugene. And God had already placed it there years before we needed it.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I mean, every part of his recovery happened immediately or, much quicker than they anticipated. Right after surgery, he had one, they said he had one seizure during surgery. And brain seizures are to be normally they expect them. They can continue after surgery, and so they kept the brain fluid in his brain lower, the pressure lower than normal. So he had a brain drain in, and called Pastor Eli, prayer for that. He never had another seizure. They were able to increase the pressure every day, and within a week, the brain pressure was completely back to normal, the brain drain completely removed. So that allowed him more freedom to sit up, to be able to walk around more, and not have to be in bed as often. I mean, the most painful thing that he experienced going through this was the catheter.
Oh my.
And I've never heard anybody have one who said they weren't painful. So, but after, brain surgery, you would expect, potentially headaches, nausea, soreness, tenderness. Nope, it was the catheter. So
forgetting that his brain was open,
exactly.
His head
had been cut open. Even when you see the pictures, you'll see how intense the incision was. And they cut him from ear to ear this way and also back this way. And then to have it stitched up, staples in, it looks like railroad tracks. And within like a few days, you could already see the significance in the healing. And when they take the staples out 20 days later, the incision was already almost
healed.
Completely healed.
Yeah, I got to see the pictures. Not quite aware what was happening, and it was just incredible. Yeah. It was definitely a miracle. Definitely got involved in all of this.
God did everything.
A surgery that big is not that simple.
No.
Right? That would be healing that soon, that easily. And for things to roll the way it did, the favor was definitely there.
Yes. He essentially went from ICU to a room within, I think it was a week or less, and then to physical therapy within like 2 weeks of surgery. And when he got to physical, a little over 2 weeks, when he got to physical therapy, they wanted to keep him there for, I think, like about 10 days or so, 2 weeks. And he came home in a week and less than 2 weeks. So, everything everything. God did everything.
And I remember you telling me what your mom told to the doctors.
So
What the doctors were saying, and your mom replied.
Yeah, before, like the day before the surgery, the doctors kept telling my mom, we're going to take good care of him. We'll do the best we can. We're going to take good care of him. And my mom just looked him in the face and said, oh, I know you're going to take good care of him because my Jesus is taking care of him. And you're partnered with Jesus, whether you know it or not, or like it or not. And my God will not let you do anything except take good care of him. So I'm not worried. And the doctors were just like,
Very bold.
They don't even know how to respond to that. So
how can they?
But like I said, they weren't confident in their abilities necessarily to get it all out, but they did. And even they showed me pictures. I think on the 4th day, they showed me the computer images of what his brain looked like with the tumor there, and then the picture with it completely gone. And wow, it was just like, thank you, God. That's all we could do through the whole thing was, just we would call and get prayer, because every day, there were so many uncertainties, and so each day we would just sort of find out the next step. Like, here's the next thing that's going to happen. Here's what could or couldn't happen. Call and get prayer. Anything bad didn't happen. Everything good happened.
And as members who are aware, because sometimes the call will come when we're meeting, because as you know, not many of us can meet all together in one room, but some of them can meet online.
Right.
So we will hear some of the prayers, and then one day, even soon after, I think you shared a testimony by Google Meet.
Yes.
How God has been blessing you, and what just has happened.
Yes.
And even to do this testimony, to tell the story how God was helping your family during this time, even just talking to you doesn't give it justice.
Right.
Based on what, even like for me, from looking from the outside.
Right.
Just from seeing how God was in every step of the way. Not just in this case, in other cases in life even, and we don't see it.
Yeah.
And for me personally, it's impacted me. And to even just to depend more on God, trust in God, be patient and hope. To me, this talk with you has heightened my faith, I believe, and my hope.
Yes.
And I hope that when people see this video, they will see it positively, and find it within themselves to trust God more.
Yes.
To be patient and hope.
Yes.
To come to Him, to ask for help. Like, as you know, He's always there. It is us people that walk away from Him. And we're not willing to change. We're not willing to receive Him. And we're unwilling sometimes. Well, more than sometimes.
Yes.
So sometimes when we need something, we want it to go to God, then He exists. We talk to Him, I want this, I want that. If He doesn't come in that second, then you have an attitude.
Right.
And that's just not mere a statement. It's true, because we see it all the time with folks, because in the line of work that we do, because of the ministry, and it is kind of disappointing from my perspective sometimes when we see those kind of behaviors.
Right.
Because I personally know that God is always there.
Yes.
He's never gone. He's always consistent. And we always have to remember, it is us that is inconsistent.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. And because of that, I'm glad you're willing to sit on behalf of the family to share his testimony. And I give praise to God for doing this, and your dad be willing to do this, give his testimony.
Yeah. He even said, he was excited to be able to share his testimony so that others could see and hear what God did. Yeah.
Yes, because as you know, we oftentimes see miracles in the ministry. And not many people gives us permission to share their testimony, because the only way we can do it, put it online, Facebook, YouTube, is if they tell us it's okay.
Right.
You know, we
Right.
put those videos there to give glory to God, first
Yeah.
of all, because He's the one doing it. Thank you,
Yes.
Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
And also to give others hope, to
Mhm.
give them that encouragement.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go ask for prayer. And so many people came because they saw the video.
Yes.
So many
It's true.
people outside the U.S.,
Mhm.
starting like, say, India, Peru, Fiji.
Mhm.
You know, like in Fiji one time, one of the people that we got to know, their mom was unconscious one day. Left a message. Pastor prayed. Within that day, she got released from the hospital.
Yeah.
And she was unconscious. We can go into details and then we're going to talk forever. But it was definitely a miracle. The whole family were grateful and they were writing messages, giving praise to God and thanking Pastor Eli for always being there to pray for them. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, you know, we see so many more miracles that then the people receive it and they're, it's, I mean, it's just amazing what God has done, but yeah, they're not, then they're not willing to share. And, you're just like, oh, so many people can benefit from that hope. So I'm thankful that my dad's willing to share as well.
Yeah. Believe, trust, and be willing.
Yeah.
You know, and so and that's where we stand. And now we would like to say to the audience that to get connected with us, to get connected with us via YouTube, Facebook, or the website.
Yeah.
And best of all, it's free.
Yes, it is.
There's no cost. You're not gonna have. You don't need insurance.
Right.
The only thing that you can bring is belief.
Yes.
And you should be healed.
Yeah.
Just let go of everything. Just come clean and
willingly and
open your spirit to receive your healing.
Yeah.
And that's how God works. And we are here for the people to help them.
Yeah.
And we hope to hear from them.
Yeah.
And they too can be blessed by God, like your father was, your family as a whole was, and still has been blessed in all areas. Because to have an abundant life, you have to be spiritually healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. So it's all those components. And so to have all those in check and balance is more of like living a better life, a more peaceful life, a more God-filled life, Spirit-filled life.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
So and two, just before we go, we do have prayers that was written through Pastor Eli.
Yep.
And they're anointed. And they can be downloaded on the website.
Yes.
And please read it, people. Whoever goes there, download it, read it aloud. And therefore it becomes prophecy.
I had his picture up on the screen when I was worshiping down here. The Spirit said, boy, David should be right there smiling at these people and saying thank you. So we do have some pictures of them if you want to see them, but it was an extraordinary time. Everybody there that was involved in the operation didn't know they were partnering with a God that is an awesome God, and they did what God has already taught them to do, and he did beyond that. And David was walking the second day and was talking, and he's totally recovering. And man, in his wisdom, in what he thinks is his wisdom and his protocol, is hindering him from coming home right now. But my God is able to change that and break that also, so that he'll be home soon. Yeah. So thank you, and continue praying for him as God clicks off all these different things that the enemies and that the world and that the man is just trying to keep going and gets him home. But it is so, this was the most, it was supposed to be tragic, right? This was the most happy and awesome experience I had ever went through. I was dancing in my room. It was so good. I never had any fear. I always had confidence. The doctors and them would come in and say, we're going to take good care of them. We're going to take good care of them. I said, I know you're going to take care of them. I'm not a bit concerned about that because he's covered with Jesus. You are all covered with Jesus, whether you know it or not, or like it or not. And my God is not going to let you do anything but take good care of you. Right. So, praise the Lord.